Ah, what have I gotten myself into? Bola screamed. Looking at the mirror, she was full of regret, confusion, and pain. Lagos was a city that never slept. No matter the time of the day, something was always happening. Music blasted from the street corners, blending with voices of people in a rush. Bola stood by the window of her small one-room apartment, staring at the world outside. She had always dreamed of a better life, but life had not been kind to her. At 24, she had no family, no close friends, and no one to rely on. She was an orphan, raised in a small orphanage that barely had enough food to feed the children. When she turned 18, she had to leave. The orphanage could no longer take care of her. She had struggled, doing all kinds of jobs to survive. Now, she worked as a sales girl in a boutique, attending to rich customers who bought expensive clothes without thinking twice. Every day, she watched women come in with their boyfriends or husbands, smiling as they picked out dresses. Some of them would call their men baby, and their men would gladly swipe their ATM cards, paying for whatever they wanted. Bola often wondered what it feels like to be loved that way. It was the week of Valentine's Day, and love was in the air. Everywhere she turned, people were talking about their plans. Some of her colleagues at work showed off the gifts their boyfriends already sent them. Expensive perfume, teddy bears, chocolate, and even money. You see, Bola, one of the girls, Cynthia, said, if you don't have a man by now, just forget about this Valentine. No one will gift you a gift. Bola forced a smile and continued folding clothes. She wasn't expecting anything. She had never been in love, and she didn't believe in it. She had seen too many women cry over love. She had seen girls get pregnant and been abandoned by men who once swore to love them. She had seen married women weep because their husband had left them for younger girls. Love was dangerous, she told herself. She had promised herself that she would never fall into that trap. But life had a way of surprising people. February 14th finally came. The city of Lagos was painted in red. Everywhere Bola turned, there were Valentine's Day decorations. Big red hats, balloons, and banners saying Happy Valentine's Day. The boutique where she worked was extra busy that day. Many women came in, buying dresses for their dinner dates. Some men also came in, picking out gifts for their girlfriends or wife. Bola watched them but said nothing. By the time the boutique closed at 10 p.m., she was exhausted. She packed her bags and stepped out in the cold night air. She had barely taken a few steps when she heard laughter coming from a lounge nearby. The place was packed with couples eating, drinking, and celebrating love. She sighed and was about to walk away when a voice called out to her, "Hey, beautiful." She turned and saw a tall, handsome man leaning against the entrance of the lounge. He had a confident smile and his eyes shone under the street lights. "Why are you walking alone on Valentine's night?" he asked. Bola frowned. "Because I have somewhere to go." The man laughed. "Come on, you shouldn't be alone tonight. Let me buy you a drink. Just one." Bola hesitated. She didn't trust men, but something about this stranger intrigued her. "Okay, just one drink," she said. She followed him inside. That was the beginning of her biggest mistake. The lounge was dimly lit, with soft music playing in the background. People sat in cozy boats, whispering sweet words to each other, while laughter and clicking glasses filled the air. The scent of grilled meat and expensive wine surrounded them. Bola felt a little uncomfortable as she followed the stranger inside. She had never been in a place like this before. It was fancy, filled with well-dressed people who looked like they had no worries in life. The man pulled out a chair for her, and she hesitated before sitting down. He smiled at her, his eyes twinkling like he has just won a prize. "I am Deji," he said, stretching out his hands. "Bola," she replied, shaking it quickly. "A beautiful name for a beautiful woman," he said smoothly. Bola rolled her eyes. "If you brought me here to flatter me, I should just go." DJ chuckled. "No, no, I just want us to enjoy the night. It's Valentine's Day after all." He called the waiter and ordered drinks. Bola wasn't used to alcohol, so she asked for a soft drink. But DJ convinced her to try something light. "Just a sip," he said. "It won't hurt." Bola agreed. The drink was sweet at first, but it burns her throat a little. She coughed, and DJ laughed. "You will get used to it." They talked for a while. Bola found herself laughing more than she expected. Deji was funny, charming, and he made her forget her worries. One drink became two, then three. Bola started feeling lightheaded. Her body felt warm and the room seemed to spin a little. "Let's go out of here," Deji whispered in her ears. His voice was smooth. Bola hesitated. She knew what was happening. A small voice in her head told her to go home, but another part of her wanted to feel love, even if it's just for one night. Maybe, just maybe, love wasn't so bad after all. She nodded, and Deji took her hand, leading her out of the lounge. That night, Bola made a decision that would change her life forever. The sun streamed through the curtains, landing on Bola's face. She ground and turned away, her head pounding. Her body ached, and as she slowly opened her eyes, she realized she wasn't in her own home. She gasped, sitting up quickly. The events of the last night came rushing back. The drinks, the laughter, DJ's smile, and then Bola looked down at herself. She was wrapped in a strange bedsheet. Her clothes were scattered on the floor. Tears filled her eye. She had done what she swore she would never do. She turned to see DJ sleeping beside her, looking peaceful. He looked so different now, like a stranger. She shocked him greatly. "Deji, wake up!" He groaned and opened his eye. When he saw her, he smiled lazily. "Good morning, beautiful." Bola felt sick. "I need to go home," she said, getting out of the bed quickly. "Relax," Deji said. "Why the rush?" Bola grabbed her clothes and dressed up in silence. She felt dirty, used. "I have to leave," she said again, her voice shaking. Deji sighed and sat up. "Fine, but at least take my number." Bola didn't answer. She just wanted to get out of there. She rushed out of the room, her heart pounding. As she stepped into the street, the morning air hit her like a slap. She had made a terrible mistake. Days passed, but Bola couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw DJ's face, his charming smile, his smooth words. She hated herself for being so careless. At work, she was distracted. She made mistakes while attending to customers, folding clothes the wrong way, forgetting prices. Her boss noticed. "Bola, what is wrong with you?" Madam Funke asked, frowning. "If you don't want this job, let me know." "I am sorry, ma," Bola whispered, forcing a smile. She tried to act normal, but deep inside, she felt like something was wrong. And then the sickness started. At first, it was just a little dizziness. She thought it was stress, but soon she began feeling nauseous every morning. The smell of food made her tummy turn. She felt tired all the time, and her body felt different. Fear crept into her heart. One evening, after work, she stopped at a pharmacy. "Excuse me," she said in a shaky voice. "I need a pregnancy test." The woman at the counter glanced at her, then handed her a small pack. Bola paid quickly and rushed home. Her hands trembled as she took the test. She sat on the toilet seat, waiting for the results. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, she looked. Two bold lines. Positive. Bola's breath caught in her throat. Her vision blurred. Her hands shook. "No, no, no," she whispered. This wasn't supposed to happen. She had only been careless once. Just once. Tears streamed down her face. She was pregnant and she was alone. Bola couldn't sleep that night. Her mind raced without a thousand thoughts. What would she do? How would she survive? She needed to find Deji. The next morning, she rushed back to the lounge where they had met. The place was quiet, almost empty. She approached the bar attendant. "Excuse me," she said quickly. "I am looking for someone." "Deji." Tall, dark, handsome. He was here on Valentine's night. The bar attendant frowned. "Deji? I don't know any Deji." Bola's heart sank. "Are you sure? He was here that night. We sat over there." The bar attendant sighed. "I see many people every day. Sorry, I can't help you." Bola felt like the ground was shaking beneath her. She stepped outside, feeling lost. Then she remembered Deji asked her to take his number, but she had been in such a hurry to leave that she didn't collected it. She had nothing, no way to reach him. Tears filled her eyes again. She was truly alone, and she was carrying a stranger's baby. Days turned into weeks, and Bola's life became a nightmare. She was sick every morning, throwing up before she could leave for work. Her body felt weak, and her uniform was getting tighter. She tried to hide her pregnancy, but the signs were becoming obvious. She knew it was only a matter of time before people started questioning her. One evening, as she walked home, she passed a group of young women chatting outside a hair salon. "Have you seen Bola lately?" one of them whispered loudly. "She's getting fat," another said. Maybe she had found a rich man feeding her well. They laughed. Bola kept walking, her face burning with shame. If only they knew the truth. At work, it became harder to hide. Cynthia, her colleague, noticed first. "Bola, what's going on? You have been looking different." Bola forced a smile. "Nothing. I'm just tired." But Cynthia wasn't convinced. One afternoon, when Bola nearly fainted while helping a customer, Madam Funke called her into the office. "Bola, are you pregnant?" she asked bluntly. Bola froze. Mama Funke sighed. "I don't allow pregnant girls working here. My customers don't like it." Tears welled up in Bola's eyes. "Please, ma, I need this job." Madam Funke shook her head. "I am sorry. Pack your things." Bola begged, but it was useless. She has lost her job. She stepped out of the boutique, clutching her small bag, feeling like the whole world has collapsed on her. Bola's savings ran out quickly. With no job and no family to help her, life became unbearable. She stopped eating properly, trying to stretch what little money she had left. She drank only garri and water, her stomach crying for real food. Her landlord began knocking on her door. "Bola, your rent is due. Where is my money?" "Please, sir," she begged, "give me more time." The man scoffed. No money, no house. Find somewhere else to go to. Bola didn't know what to do. One evening, as she sat outside, clutching her stomach, a neighbor approached her. Sister Bola, you are pregnant and you are struggling. Why don't you find the baby's father? Bola felt fresh tears in her eyes. I don't know where he is. The woman shook her head. Then go to the church. Maybe God will help you. Bola had never been deeply religious, but now she had nothing left. The next Sunday, she walked into the church for the first time in years. The church sang, the pastor preached, but Bola's mind was far away. When the service ended, she approached the pastor. Sir, I need help, she whispered. The pastor looked at her, his eyes kind. Tell me, my child. And for the first time, Bola told someone her story. The pastor's wife, a gentle woman named Mama Joy, took Bola's hands in hers. You made a mistake, my dear, she said softly, but God has not forgotten you. Bola broke down in tears. I have no money, no job, and nowhere to go. I don't know what to do. Mama Joy hugged her. You will stay with me for now. Bola couldn't believe it. Really? Mama Joy smiled. Yes, you need rest and the baby needs care. That night, for the first time in months, Bola slept peacefully. With Mama Joy's help, Bola found a small work cleaning in the church. It wasn't much, but at least she had food to eat. As her belly grew, she started feeling the baby move inside her. One night, as she laid in bed, she whispered, I don't know who you are, little one, but I promise to love you. Tears filled her eyes. Maybe this baby wasn't a punishment. Maybe, just maybe, it was a blessing. Months passed, and Bola's due date drew near. The women in the church supported her, bringing her food and clothes for the baby. One Sunday, as she was sweeping outside the church, a familiar voice called her name. She turned. It was Deji. Her heart stopped. He looked surprised to see her, but his eyes widened when he saw her stomach. Bola, he whispered, you are pregnant. Tears streamed down Bola's face. You left me, Deji. I searched for you. Deji swallowed hard. I didn't know. I was transferred to another city for work. Bola laughed bitterly. And you didn't try to find me. Deji looked down ashamed. I am sorry, I was careless. I didn't think about what could happen. Bola wiped her tears. It's too late, Deji. I don't need you anymore. Deji hesitated. Let me take responsibility. Bola, let me help you and the baby. Bola shook her head. I forgive you, Deji, but I am raising this baby on my own. Deji sighed. If you ever change your mind, I'll be here. He left and Bola felt lighter. That night, she went into labor. After hours of pain and struggle, she finally heard the cry of her baby. It's a girl, Mama Joy whispered, placing the tiny baby in her arms. Bola looked at her daughter, her heart full. She had been abandoned, shamed and broken. But now, she had something precious she had loved, and for the first time in a long time, she smiled. Bola stared at her baby girl, tears streaming down her face. She had been through so much, but at that moment, all the pain disappeared. She is beautiful, Mama Joy said, smiling. Bola nodded. Yes, she is. She touched the baby's tiny fingers, feeling a love she had never known before. What will you name her? Mama Joy asked. Bola thought for a moment. Then she smiled. I will name her Hope because she is the light in my darkness. Mama Joy patted her hands. That's a perfect name. That night, as Bola held Hope in her arms, she whispered, I promise to give you a better life than I had. I will never abandon you. She meant every word, but life was still hard. The first few weeks were tough. Bola barely slept. Hope cried all night, and Bola had no idea what to do. She was exhausted, her body still weak from childbirth. Mama Joy helped as much as she could, but Bola knew she couldn't stay in the church forever. She had to find a way to survive. One afternoon, she went to Madam Funke's boutique. Madam, please, I need my job back, Bola pleaded. Madam Funke sighed. I don't take back workers who leave. Bola's heart sank, but just as she turned to leave, a customer walked in. Oh, Bola, the woman said. Bola looked up. It was Mrs. Williams, a wealthy woman who used to buy clothes from the boutique. Madam, good afternoon, Bola greeted politely. Mrs. Williams smiled. What are you doing here? She's looking for a job, Madam Funke said quickly. Mrs. Williams' eyes light up. I need a nanny for my son. Are you interested? Bola gasped. A nanny? She had never done that before, but she had no choice. Yes, ma. I am very interested. Mrs. Williams smiled. Good. Come to my house tomorrow morning. Bola thanked her, her heart beating fast. Maybe, just maybe, things were finally changing. The next morning, Bola woke up early. She fed Hope, wrapped her in a clean clothes and prepared to leave for Mrs. Williams' house. Mama Joy smiled at her. God is opening doors for you, my dear. Bola nodded. I just pray this works out. She carried Hope and walked into the address Mrs. Williams had given her. When she arrived, she was shocked. The house was massive. A 3-story mansion with tall gates and expensive cars parked inside. A security guard let her in. As she stepped into the living room, she felt like she had entered another world. The floors were marble, the air smelled like fresh flowers, and soft music played in the background. Mrs. Williams walked in, dressed in a flowing gown. She smiled. Welcome, Bola. Come, let me show you your duties. Bola followed her to a large nursery where the baby boy lay in a beautiful crib. This is David, my son, Mrs. Williams said. He is just 5 months old. Bola smiled at the baby. He is cute. Mrs. Williams turned to her. Your job is simple. Take care of David. Feed him and play with him. You will live here and I will pay you well. Bola's heart leaps. A place to stay? Good pay? It was more than she had hoped for. Thank you, ma, she said, bowing slightly. Mrs. Williams smiled. Now, go and settle in. Bola was finally seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, but she had no idea that more challenges were coming.